Welcome back to Adobe live from the Awwwards in Amsterdam. So this next slot, I will be together with Stephanie. So you've seen Stephanie in the last interview together with Benoit Drouillat. So I just wanted to welcome you, Stephanie. Stephanie is a new member on my team, and this was her first Adobe Live. So thumbs up for Stephanie in the chat if you thought that she was doing great, or a thumbs down if you think she was doing badly. But I think she did great.
Thank you.
So basically what happened today is that Marta Veludo, who was supposed to be on this slot, could not join us today because she suddenly felt unhealthy, and yes, she couldn't join us. So we're stepping in, and we're just going to talk a little bit about Adobe Xd and how the philosophy behind the product. And everybody says hi, Stephanie. Good job, Stephanie. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mark, Julia, Bojana. Good luck with your first live event, Stephanie, from Angelique. Perfect.
Thanks, Angelique.
So basically what I quickly wanted to do is talk to you a little bit about how XD started, a little bit of the history behind Adobe XD, and then maybe we can look at some features if we have some time towards the end. And then of course at 11:30 the programming goes on. We are here until 4 p.m. Central European Time at 30-minute intervals. I saw a good discussion here on the chat about having music during the intervals. Yes, that would be actually a good idea, but very hard to do, because basically we're not streaming anything during the intervals, so let me think about how we could solve that. I think it would be cool to have some kind of chill music, during the interval, but yeah. Thumbs up. What would you ask for thumbs down? Be positive. Haley says, yeah. Yeah, well, you have to give chance to everybody to express their opinion. Anyway, let me start here, and of course I'm in Adobe Xd. I'm increasingly using Adobe Xd to create presentations, to create slides, to show people. So let's play this prototype for a second and go full screen. And the cool thing about this prototype here is that it was entirely made in Adobe Xd, including that animation. This is the auto animate feature. So as you can see, you can create really complex things based on 2 slides. Basically, all the dots who are on the first slide here, boom, then go onto the second slide and they auto animate to create that animation. But very quickly, I wanted to show you that our team is really all over the world, North America, Japan, Europe, and we're working on very specific things here, like the experience with Adobe Xd. And these planets come together to focus on several points that the team is focusing on. And I made this little word cloud, things of importance and how all of these things come together in the application itself. Like reusable symbols are very important. Micro interactions have been asked for. More character styles. So all of these things that you see on the screen are actually things that the team is working on, that we're taking into consideration, and that are really important for our roadmap. So some of these things, have already started, like annotating or After Effects integration. But all of these things, of course, become better as we move along in time. Let's move a little bit to the history of Adobe Xd. And it all started with a project called Sparkler. And it was an internal project, of course, because all projects start like that. It's first an internal project. There's a team, and this is how small the team was at the beginning to start the ideation phase of the... that's nice, Angelique. I also want to make a presentation in Adobe Xd. It looks better this way. It does. You can do all of these really cool things. And Robert, you have designers from the Middle East. I'm pretty sure we do. Adobe is a very, very big company, and we have employees from all over the world. But I will go in a little bit more detail about that. So Project Sparkler, the main concept about Project Sparkler was really to enable you guys to design at the speed of thought. This was really the mantra that we started with at the beginning to enable you to create these things very, very quickly. And of course, at the beginning, it was very much focused on mobile applications, from the storyboarding to the wireframing to the production-ready artwork. So this was the concept. And this is a screen from the very first iterations of Project Sparkler. You see that it was all pretty still pretty rough and but already usable. It was something that that internally had a lot of passion and a lot of good feedback from within the company. And here's another thing, like this is how the
prototyping.
The prototyping worked, linking pages together, and we even had little icons that says slide up, like all of these things that we then removed from the application because it's really not necessary to actually show an icon for that. This then became Project Comet. And there was a big tour all around the world to actually talk with users to try to understand what the users really needed, what they were thinking about a prototyping app. So these four guys, Jay and Damien here, and do you remember the names? Damn. Andrew Shorten and Tom Krisha. There we go. Thank you for that.
I had to remember with names.
Terrible with names. So of course the team grew larger with Project Comet until the launch at Adobe Max. That's where we started talking about Project Comet. And the response was very, very good from the press, from social media, that finally Adobe was being part of that game and really started thinking about a prototyping application that made sense. So we had a whole bunch of good press and feedback from this first Project Comet iteration that we presented, and then came the Adobe Xd beta. And that was in April 2017 at Max. We had a Max in April at that time. And basically, this is when it all started that users had the opportunity to start playing with Adobe Xd. So what usually happens with betas like this is that, of course, like when you use a beta, it is not the finished product. But many people just open the beta and say, no, that's not good. I'm going to go back to my old way of working. Okay. So if some of you have opened the beta and decided that Xd was not for you, I think now, in 2019, is a very good moment in time to reopen Adobe Xd and see all of the things that happened there. Because it really grew, it really became a professional application. And these are the waffles, and I think the waffle machine, the Adobe Xd waffle machine, is also downstairs here at the Awwwards in Amsterdam. The team is, of course, growing. And yes. And this is just a little, also to explain about the roadmap of Xd. Xd is a very ambitious project. We have a roadmap that pushes us and the team to deliver a new version with new features on a monthly basis. So it is an ever-evolving application. It evolves very quickly. But the cool thing is that instead of putting all of these features, like imagine if we put all of these features, like 6 months of features into one update, it would be very hard to understand what's new, how these things actually work for you, if you can use them. And so basically this monthly feature release makes it also more overseeable, that you can understand better what's new and things like that. I'm going to show you in a second in Xd how that is actually accessible. People are getting hungry on the chat, seeing the waffles, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And Boyana said, when I opened Xd for the first time, I knew that's a program for me. Well, thank you, Boyana. Thank you for believing in Adobe Xd. And I think you did well, because it really came a long, long, long way. So, here we go. That's how we approach the development of Adobe Xd. And these three pivotal areas are very, very important, that they all work together. The design part, the product part, and the engineering part. All of these things need to be in sync to be able to deliver a product that works. And in the middle, the sweet spot, we have the great tools. Just a quick map also to show you that we have Xd members working in Seattle, in San Francisco, in New York, and also in Romania, in Bucharest, and in India, in Bangalore. So the team is really global and really focused on delivering the best experience that you can imagine for a prototyping app. Let me just go through some of the slides. We don't have a lot of time, so let me escape out of this for a second and go to, for example, how we approach development. Here we go. Is it this one? Yes. Let me play that. So, maybe...
Henk is saying, I love the layout of Adobe Xd.
Ah, thank you. That's great. So, just very quickly, how do we approach building a new feature in Xd? Of course, not everything, becomes a feature, or there's a lot of thought process, a lot of engineers and designers and product managers that are working together as a team to define what is useful and how these things should work. So, how do we build a feature? So, let's take the example of responsive resizing. So of course this is not something that you want. That things resize like this and simply extend the icons, for example. This is what you want. That elements go to this, follow their position on the page and resize and reposition. So here I have a few examples of what, what responsive resize should be, like this, for example. So how do we get there? How did we get to responsive resize in Adobe Xd, which is now possible? And we always start from the community, because this is the central part of Adobe Xd. The central part of Adobe Xd is you, okay? It is you that are helping us define the future of Adobe Xd based on your needs. So we always start here, and from user voice, for example, where the community has an opportunity to submit feature requests or also bugs. If there is bugs, you can put them here. Actually, the address is, and maybe Tim in the chat can put it, it's adobexduservoice.com, there's a whole chat about
doing presentations in Xd.
Yeah, presentations
so
about
Anita
Xd.
is saying Xd and InDesign are excellent apps for creating presentations. Given time and development, they could well overtake PowerPoint as the presentation app of choice.
Yeah, why not? So basically, user voice allows us to gather your feedback, and it allows you to upvote the feedback of others instead of duplicating posts and things like that. It makes it super easy for the team to understand what the community really wants, what the community is needs in the application. And so, for example, there were over almost 3,000 upvotes for this feature, and a lot of comments. And the team comments back and starts a conversation with the community to be able to have a good idea of what you want. And then, of course, there's a gazillion meetings, internal meetings. Like there's a picture of that here about discussing how do we best do that. And we also had a big push from social media and from the press, where there's no sign of support for adaptive or responsive design. Very confused that Xd still doesn't have any features for managing grid systems. All of this feedback comes back to us, and this is what then allows us to understand what is necessary, what we should do with Adobe Xd. Of course, that's one part of it. Of course, then we also have very capable engineers and product managers and designers that are working on features that maybe the community is not quite thinking about yet, or things that we see could happen in the future. So that, it's like a mix of these two things. So basically what we need to do is to fully understand exactly what it is that you need before we actually provide a solution, okay? So the users are trying to do this, right? To be able to take a layout and then make it bigger or smaller and make it adapt automatically on the artboard. And that's super useful when you design for mobile first, and then maybe you want to create a page for tablets, or maybe the same page for a web page. So to very quickly iterate the various sizes. Or this, okay? So an example with the with a form or with a header content here. Another quick example. More meetings. Always more meetings, like to say, okay, this is what people want to do. How do we address that? How do we make that possible? And then, of course, we also look at the competitive landscape. What do others do with that? How do they, look at this problem, and how do they solve it? And how can we do it in a way that is comfortable for everybody? And then we have some users, who use constraints and make the page super organized, and they, they really grok the responsive thing. But the truth is that the majority of users, they don't know what constraints are, what they're used for, and why should I use constraints? It's hard to learn, there's a lot of trial and error. It's really tedious to set up. So basically, our solution is built on these principles that, that it is easy enough to use on a daily basis, so that you don't get lost in losing time and things like that, and to make these things go very fast. Eliminating more work than it generates. You shouldn't have to adjust manual constraints every time, and allow for systemic scaling. This is also very important for our teams at Adobe, is to always think about how are these tools going to scale in the future, all right? How are these tools going to be working in 5, 10 years? We're building tools that will scale. We're not only thinking about today solving a problem, we're always thinking about how can this also work in the future. All right, and with that, I just wanted to go back to Xd very quickly to show you some. So first of all, in Adobe Xd, you can use this provide feedback link here under the help menu, and basically this goes directly to Adobe user voice. And here you have access to the bugs. And there's 630 bugs that are being sent by you, the community. And but the thing that I like most is, of course, the Adobe Xd feature request. And if you go here, you can see, okay, which are the top ideas. And almost 6,000 of you have upvoted a tap hover effect. Like how do I do that effect in my prototype? How can I show my customers, my users, how to tap or hover over something in Adobe Xd. And the cool thing is that now this feature is in the backlogs, meaning that the team is thinking about it, and that it is on the roadmap. Or animate individual elements separately instead of animating the whole artboard like we've seen examples of today, to animate specific elements. And in this case, the feature is under review, all right? So this is the best way to understand where Adobe Xd is going, how we're thinking about it, and to actually, communicate with us your needs and have them upvoted as well by the community. Scrollable area, feature started, all right? That's also awesome to have a scrollable area. So I know that somebody's working on it. So many people come to me and say, Rufus, I wish Adobe Xd could do that. So I said, okay, let me check user voice. Oh, some people already put that into the user voice, and it's being upvoted, and and we're thinking about it. Okay, Robert asked, do you think the symbol feature will be upgraded and have more power, like having a panel to edit a symbol easily? Let's see, Robert. And just to give my symbols, let's search for that. Make global symbols to a local symbol, real rename, overwrite text, let's see, UI symbol font. But you see that there's a whole bunch of things about symbols that are already in user voice, so it's a really good way to understand where it's going. Angelique, is there a video that explains how to use the voice and voice function in Adobe Xd? Yes, of course there is. So again, if you go in, I need to go back to Xd, under Help, if you go to the release notes, for example, the release notes are super useful to understand, what the latest features are. So let's go to the list of new features. Here we go. We have the January and February release of Adobe Xd, the new features in Adobe Xd, record interactions with audio narration. Okay, that's recording audio narration. Let me see if I can go to new features in Xd 15. I think voice came in 15, right? Or was it before that? Voice, language, and accent support? No.
It was
but
at
anyway,
Max
anyway,
year.
there's a gazillion of videos. There's all of the help that you need inside of Adobe Xd directly. Remember that everything is really here, like learn and support. Yeah, perfect. Why did I not think of that? Okay, tutorials. And get to know Adobe Xd. Let's see, I'm pretty sure, share prototypes for review. But anyway, there's a whole bunch of tutorials and elements that you can learn from, okay? So remember that. And of course, yes, Anita, there's Udemy, there's LinkedIn Learning, there's a whole bunch of other sources that you can access and learn about Adobe Xd. So, Stephanie, we didn't have time to show now features or anything. You thought, what am I doing here? Rufus is talking for 25 minutes.
I'm listening to you.
But the cool thing is that you will be talking for the next 25 minutes with our friends Simon and Ingo Eichel from Adobe. You're going to be talking about plugins, because this is something that, let me just show you that in under 30 seconds. There is this whole thing that you can discover plugins right in Adobe Xd, find plugins, for example, a translation plugin. Let's see if we have something. World Ready. And you can install plugins right there from the, and this is a cool plugin because it allows you to very quickly translate your prototype to other languages to see if buttons still work in Japanese or things like that. So, so super useful. So we're going to be discovering the whole plugin universe in just a second. And before we leave, let's see if there's other things in the chat. Vanessa, I really enjoy working with Adobe with Animate CC. Will it be possible in future to design animation in Animate and put them in a prototype in XD? We're looking at many different things here. Of course, some people want to add animated GIFs. Some people want to add animation from After Effects. We really have to understand what is the correct way to do that and how to enable you guys to do the right thing, right? So right now, it's possible, for example, to start animating in Adobe Xd and exporting that to After Effects and continue to make more complex animations there. So it is really something that, and our time is over, Stephanie, but stay here. We'll be right back in 5 minutes with Stephanie, Ingo, and Simon to talk about plugins. See you later.
Thank you.